2. You clap really loudly. But it's okay, we'll keep that in. What's up, everyone? Welcome to 20 Minutes. Glad to have you here. Say hi, Cox.
What's up, everyone? I am with Pastor Steven.
Hello. All right, so in case you're wondering what is going on, this show, 20 Minutes, we're going to be going through the Word together, and we want to bring you into the conversation. We're going to be going through chapters. We're going to be going through books of the Bible, little by little, and talking. But before we do that, we want you to get to know the team just a little bit. So first, you probably know Cox already. You've probably seen him preaching. I don't know if you're from our church or not. Can you introduce yourself for a second?
Yep, my name is Cox. I work with Pastor Steven, which is the easiest job in the world. So, and
I can hear laughing offset. You're going to have to calm that down. Continue.
We have a wonderful team that is with us in the youth ministry, and yeah, this is a fun time that we are in.
Yeah, all right. Next person that's going to be a regular on this team is our resident coffee person, because we're respectful of people and we don't judge. Our resident coffee person is Eric.
Woo!
Yeah, he's not allowed to speak when he's working. I just decided that now. You must only make coffee, and that's going to be his job. And we got some camera crew. Hey, Pearl, give us a shout. Woo! There we go.
There
all right.
Go.
So that's Pearl. She's off camera, and we got some other people. So what we're going to do is we're going to be starting a first episode. We're going to be going through the book of Colossians, right? So for the next 4 episodes, we're going to be talking about the book of Colossians. It's really fun. Before we do that, I have a really serious question for you. All right?
Shoot.
On the spot, coffee or tea?
Coffee, of course.
Okay, there. That was a hypothetical warm-up. If you said tea, I was going to kick you off the set. All right. Next question, cake or pie?
I'd say cake.
What kind of cake?
With coffee, of course, blueberry cheesecake.
Okay, I personally think cheesecake is a pie, but we're gonna move on from there.
All right.
All right. You're not allowed. Don't. You're not allowed to talk. All right, Pearl. You don't have to be on camera. Cake or pie?
Wow.
Cake or pie?
That's a hard question for her.
Pie.
What kind of pie?
Apple pie with ice cream on top.
Ooh.
Vanilla ice cream.
That's good. See, I would take pie every day. Key lime pie, cheesecake, which I consider a pie. I think people who don't consider cheesecake a pie are crazy people. So yeah, that's why. And here's what I want to make sure that you guys do. If you're watching this video in a small group,
There we go.
that's fine. In a small group or whatever, I really want you guys to argue about the fact that cheesecake is a pie and not a cake. All right. So let's jump into the book of Colossians. Let's jump into the book of Colossians real quick. I'm going to set it up, and here's what we're going to be doing. Cox and I are going to be talking about the word, and we're going to be, obviously we don't have enough time to go through the entire chapter in everything about it. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be extracting nuggets from the word that we don't want you to miss out on. So in chapter 1 of Colossians, these are nuggets that we believe, if you're reading chapter 1 of Colossians, you cannot walk away from this chapter without taking away some of these nuggets, all right? So here's the intro first with Colossians, just to set it up. The Apostle Paul is writing to the church in Colossae. He's writing to a young church, and what he's doing is making sure that this young church is established in their faith, in the doctrine and building blocks of what it means to follow Jesus, right? So I have some thoughts, I got some nuggets, but first I want Cox to take it. He was messaging me last night on some of his thoughts, and so you go first and we'll go back and forth for a little bit.
All right. Well, first of all, I don't know if you've heard that, but I think he mentioned nuggets too many times.
Nuggets.
Something with that word.
Show us those nuggets, bro. Come on.
Let's go.
You good? Hurry up, man.
Hurry up, man. So, yeah, I wanna go to verse 9. All right, we're gonna start off with verse 9, which is this is actually a powerful prayer that I think most of us, if we've been in church, we've heard this prayed out in the pulpit, prayed out for us. But I wanna present it this way. Okay? Have you ever had the feeling of being lost. Can you share us?
You want me to share that?
Yeah.
So as for anyone who's in the Philippines, who if you've ever driven in Makati or downtown Manila with all the one-way streets in the middle of the night, after going, never mind. So and then you turn around and you look up and you're like, I have no idea. After 30 minutes of driving, you thought you were on your way home, and then you realize you couldn't be further from home.
Exactly.
It's absolutely terrifying.
So with everyone, that feeling of being lost. For me personally, I remember actually it was our honeymoon. Yeah, it was our honeymoon.
Not our honeymoon, him and Pearl. just to be clear, right?
Thank God.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it was my wife and I's honeymoon. We went to Malaysia. We flew in 1 a.m. in the morning. So, that feeling of being in a faraway land, hailing taxis. It was just that feeling of, being lost.
Yeah.
And I just relate that with what we're going through right now, right? Being in a situation wherein, looking towards the future, where we're at, that feeling of being lost. And then I go to verse 9, and this is what the Apostle Paul was saying to the church in Colossae. And he said, and so from the day we heard, we have not ceased to pray for you, asking that you may be filled with the knowledge of his will in all wisdom and spiritual understanding, so as to walk in a manner worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing him, bearing fruit in every good work, and increasing in the knowledge of God, being strengthened in all power according to his glorious might, for all endurance and patience with joy. And at a time like this, if you read something like that, right, first thing that comes to mind is, wait, we can be filled with the knowledge of his will. It can actually happen that if you look at the circumstance, right, the circumstance will cause you to be lost.
Yeah.
But then we are encouraged that we can be filled with knowledge of his will. And if you think about it, being filled with the knowledge of his will, our walk is affected by that, right? It says here, so that we may walk in a manner worthy of the Lord. In an unfamiliar spot, in an unfamiliar situation, being in a pandemic,
like the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that our walk, we have had to really reevaluate things, right?
As you're saying that, talking about may we be filled with the knowledge of his will. That's such a counterculture statement right now, because right now it's actually, when you wake up regularly every day, we're surrounded by fear. So much, like it's literally bombarding our face every day. From the moment you put on Instagram or whatever, it's like, oh, it's nothing but fear, and it's really like a counterculture statement to say I'm gonna be filled with the knowledge of God's will, because it's so easy to be filled with fear right now, like every second, and to say no, I'm choosing to be filled with something else. That's like, some people are living every day in fear, like every moment, right? And I think it's great to be wise and smart, but being full of fear. No, I love that. That's so good. And so what I want to jump to is this. I wrote this down. So we have the Apostle Paul. He's talking about all of that, right? In the beginning, he has a greeting. He's talking about love, and he's praying for everyone. And then he talks about that you would be full of the knowledge of his will. And then what really hit me, and I want to share this, and we'll go back and forth on this, right? And this is something that if you're in a small group, if you're using this video in a small group setting, this is something I really want you guys to chat and even argue about and go back and forth, right? In verse 13 to 20, he says this, and so, the coffee's smelling good. It's really nice. Verse 13 to 20, he says, he has delivered us from the domain of darkness and transferred us into the kingdom of his beloved Son, in whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sins. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For by him all things were created in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. I'm going to skip forward a little bit. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in everything he might be preeminent. For in him the fullness of God was pleased to dwell, and through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, making peace by the blood of his cross. So here's some nuggets that I really want you guys to get, right? So if you're talking about it, if you're watching this, whenever you're watching this here, the first thing I want to point out is after the Apostle Paul talks about that, after he welcomes the church, after he has greetings and stuff, he emphasizes this amazing thing that Jesus has done for us. If you look at what he's saying here, verse 13, he has delivered us from the domain of darkness and transferred us into the kingdom of his beloved Son. This reads like a rescue mission, right? Like Jesus has gone on this amazing, crazy mission and rescued us from this terrible, like, living condition. He's saved us. And so I want everyone to think about that for a second, right? And then after the Apostle Paul talks about this amazing thing that Jesus has done, then immediately he talks about who Jesus is. Do you see that? Yeah. Like right after he says, this is what he's done, and why does it matter? Because this is who he is, right? And because the Apostle Paul is writing to a young church, right? And there was people, and as we go about the next episodes, you will see there's people who are coming into the church and they're stirring up false doctrine. They're bringing in new teaching, wanting to go back to old ways, all this kind of stuff. But we'll get into that in the coming. And so what I want to throw this at you, right? So then why does this matter to you, right? Is when the Apostle Paul emphasizes who Jesus is, right? He talks about all of these things. How does that hit you?
Yeah, it's good because I'm going to highlight verse 15 here. And as you have read, the Apostle Paul was saying he is the image of the invisible God, right?
Yeah.
It's an interesting thought that he introduces Jesus as the image of the invisible God. And you think about this. In our modern world, of course, when you say God, when you say, we know it, right? We have an idea that, of course, God is God, right? But this is a church wherein the God that they knew is maybe an angry God, right? Maybe a God who, who was with Moses doing signs and wonders. But then if you would look at the pattern, right? This is a God, if, you don't follow the law, you're going to get something, right? That's the God that this society is familiar with. Right. So for Paul to say that he is the image of the invisible God, we have to get the weight of that, right? He's saying that the God that you knew was maybe abstract, this is the person of that.
Like he's showing himself in physical
more personal
form.
Yeah, exactly, right? And just to insert that in there, I don't want to get too teachy here. That's a nice background sound. So image, get this, image in the Greek word is eikon, E-I-K-O-N. And it has two ideas.
Like the rapper?
Oh yeah, it can be.
Anyway, all right, moving on.
Whoever knows that guy, okay. So, it says it can be likeness, or it can be manifestation.
Oh wow.
So if you think about that, when the Apostle Paul was saying that he's the image of the invisible God, it's either he's saying he's likeness of the invisible God, or this is the manifestation of the God that you thought before he was like this, he was like this. That's the weight of what he was saying.
And that's so good too, because if you look at the Old Testament, we have Moses, right? Moses was the one talking to God, or the prophets were the ones directly talking to God, and then everyone else is just following. But then God in the New Testament, in the New Covenant, displays his fullness in the person of Jesus, and that's someone that can be known personally. So this is something that is completely different, that is completely out of the box for the people of Israel and all of us, is The Son of God, Jesus Christ, is God in flesh. He's there, and we can actually know him on an intimate level. He's not distant, like what you said. He's not abstract. He's not distant. And that really changes how we can come to God. And so the last point I want to focus on here, the last nugget I want to take here is this ends in verse 20, this phrase here, whether on earth or in heaven, making peace by the blood of his cross. Like this word right here, this phrase, making peace by the blood of his cross. This statement is so big, and this is what I really want you to take time and have a conversation about this, is what does that mean to you? For me, as I read this, before knowing Christ, before Jesus accomplishing his mission and paying for sin and all of this stuff, there is animosity, there is division, there is this huge distance between us and God, right? And the way that we approach God is based on how we think he wants to approach us, right? And even now, sometimes I think there's a lot of us who our default is to, if we come to God, we think he's mad, he can't wait to punish us, he's angry, he's just ready to pour out wrath and anger upon us, right? And unfortunately, there's way too many people who still see God like that. But this phrase, and this really applies to us on a daily basis, is making peace by the blood of his cross. So because of what Jesus has done, there can be peace between God and man. So when we approach God, if you want to pray, if you've never prayed before, give it a shot, right? Pray. You can approach God with peace in the equation. You don't have to be worried about lightning bolts or dropping dead or all of this stuff, because it's been appeased, right? God is a just God, and the wrath that he has towards us has been sorted out, right? So is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so with what you're saying, so with everyone who's listening, can we interpret this as, so you mean this whole pandemic is not an idea of God trying to punish us, or because God is trying to purge the world? So you mean that's not the case?
No, that's a really good point. I think there's a lot of people who think this is punishment, but God allows free will, right? So it would be easy to just blame everything on God, right? It's easy. Oh, I got in a car accident, it's God's fault. I got this, right? Or there's a virus going around, oh, it's God's fault, right? It's easy, and I understand why people would want that, but God also, he wants us to have free will. I believe that fully. So if we're going to have free will, then that also means that there's going to be a lot of bad stuff that does happen, even though God chooses that we would have free will, right? Because God can't force anyone to do anything of their free will, right? There's a contradiction there, right? And so as we're about to wrap up, right, if you have any other things to share as we wrap up, we got about 2 minutes left.
Oh, good. Our coffee made it.
Right on time. Thanks, coffee person.
Yeah, just going back to the nuggets that we heard from this first episode, just like going back to that, the blood of his cross, right? The blood of the cross. It just sounds, I don't know, sometimes it sounds churchy if you think about it, right? For young people, if you say the blood of his cross, okay, I don't want to use that term, but if you understand the power, and we've gone back and forth, we've discussed that, the power that is in the blood of his cross. I think we can use it, in our prayer, right? Just like what Pastor Stephen said. If you haven't prayed before, try it, right? Try it.
Give it a shot, man.
Give it a shot. We are in a time, and we're living in a world wherein a lot of things are trying to fill us, right? A lot of things are trying to fill us, but like how the Apostle Paul encouraged the Colossian church during this time, we can be filled by something else other than what this world is trying to fill us off, right? Online, social media, whatever that is. Let's be filled with the knowledge of his will.
That's awesome. As we're wrapping up, I want to encourage all of you, take the time read through the entire first chapter of Colossians. And so the next episode, we're gonna be going through Colossians 2, and we got more nuggets to share with you. Thanks for spending time with us. Hope you guys have some really great conversations from this video. We'll see you next time at 20 minutes. Bye.
Bye.